Good.
It says it's recording. All right, this is good. This is good. All right, here we go. So, all right, let me start by introducing our keynote speaker today. His name is Brian Beck. He is the author of Billion Dollar B2B E-commerce, and he's going to share with us his view and some tips that have really worked well for a number of his clients. So, Brian, thanks so much, and welcome to our conference.
Rob, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm so excited you had me speak, and yeah, I mean, the whole B2B sector is so primed for digital transformation. This is such a timely conference, so I'm excited to be a part of the B2B e-commerce success conference. So let me go ahead and just dive in. So a little bit about my background. I am the author, as Rob mentioned, of Billion Dollar B2B E-commerce. This is the industry's first playbook, really for manufacturers, distributors, brands, anyone who is operating in the B2B sector to really sell their products and enable themselves digitally. It's 12 chapters and 400 pages and a lot of content. So I'm going to share a little bit of that today. And I'm also going to get into quite a bit today also about Amazon. So in addition to being an author, I'm also the managing partner of a company called Insiba. And at Insiba, we run Amazon programs for B2B companies in particular, with a focus on that channel, on the Amazon business channel. My background is long and varied. I've been in the e-commerce business for 20 years. I've, thankfully done some things right, but also made just about every mistake in the book. And so I've learned a lot along the way, and I bring that to clients today and help them to transform their businesses. I've been focused a lot on the B2B sector in the last few years. And I'm excited to share with you both some of the learnings from the book, as well as talk about Amazon today and what Amazon is doing in the B2B sector. So here's what I have to share. First, e-commerce, your time is now. That's really the first chapter in the book. It's what it's called, the time is now. And I say that for a reason. It's really B2B companies have an opportunity to transform themselves. And the results are just dramatic and transformative when a B2B company that is traditionally sold through analog and traditional channels moves into the digital realm. The return on investment is just outstanding. I'm going to talk about COVID-19, a little bit about what's happening in the market as a result of COVID. And then I'm going to spend a lot of time talking with you today about Amazon Business. What is Amazon doing in the B2B sector that you need to be aware of and can take advantage of for your business? We wanted to talk about defining your Amazon strategy, and then what are some of the elements required for success. So first, I wanted to just say a word about my firm Insiba. Our clients, that's the Ceiba tree. That's the tallest tree in the Amazon rainforest. That's where we took the name from. And we help our clients stand out in the rainforest and drive growth from Amazon. So I spend my days helping our companies, our clients, really understand the strategies they can use. We're based here in Los Angeles, California. You can find out more information about us on insiba.com. So again, the first chapter of the book is all about your time is now. And to kick off our conference today, I thought I'd share a few trends about B2B e-commerce and what's happening in the world and how some of these things are surprising B2B companies. The B2B buying process is now digitized, and many companies don't realize this. 90% of B2B buyers use online search. Up to 70% of the buying process is already completed before the buyer even contacts the supplier. Almost 70% narrow their selection down to just 2 or 3 suppliers, and by the end of this year, 55% of B2B buyers will make half or more of their purchases online. With these trends in place, I ask you, how well enabled are you from a digital commerce perspective? These things are sneaking up on many B2B businesses. That's why your time is now. And we talk about why. Why is this happening? Well, at the end of the day, buying or selling online is both more effective for sellers. It's more convenient for buyers, and it's really a path that buyers are taking because they're consumer in their consumer lives. They're using e-commerce. Their expectations of you as a B2B seller are tied directly to their experiences as B2C buyers. They buy from Amazon, for example, regularly. The biggest difference, though, is that B2B buyers are doing this because it's their job. And as a result, they use sites and they want to use sites that make their jobs easier. It's different than a consumer's life, where when a consumer is shopping online, they're doing it more for immersion, for fun, for searching, for identification with a lifestyle or brand. In the B2B realm, it's very much about making the buyer's job easier. And if you're not making their jobs easier, those buyers will find other channels to buy products like your competitors' products, or they'll go to Google, or they'll go to Amazon and they'll look for products where it's easier for them to buy. One of the things that's important to note too is that many of the buyers, the B2B buyers that are coming into the workforce today, are digital natives. In fact, 75% of them are millennials, or will be millennials within 4 years. So there's a real trend happening here amongst your buyer base. And finally, a lot of what's driving the volume in B2B are simpler, reorderable products, products that are more sort of like parts or commodities or consumables. That's also changing, though. I have clients today that are selling products that are worth millions of dollars on their website and successfully completing transactions in literally in the millions of dollars on their website. So it's really, this whole market has shifted and becoming more digitized. So this is what I was referring to on the last slide. Today's B2B buyers, I call them Amazon natives, and it's because they are. Millennials born between 1980 and 2000 will be 75% of the workforce by 2025, and they're moving into their B2B procurement roles. And here's a couple trends about millennials you need to be aware of. In 2019, they made 60% of their work purchases online. Think about that, folks. That's more purchases online than offline. 40% of their purchases were made offline. So this number is continuing to grow. In 2017, the online purchase number is 47%. These are your B2B buyers. 2/3 of millennials make half or more of their purchases from Amazon. Almost 100% use Amazon for at least part of their online shopping. It's incredible. So this group is silently and quickly becoming the majority of your buyers. You need to be paying attention to this. So many of you will recognize this. This is the traditional value chain, right? This is how businesses in the B2B sector have bought and sold from each other for many years. Product manufacturer makes a product, sells it to the offline distributor, and then the buyer, the end user, buys the product, right? Very simple. At each stage, there's clear value add. Well, today, the whole value chain is different and has become highly digitized. So today's complex supply chain, the manufacturer may sell direct to the end customer, the B2B customer, or in some cases the consumer. And the whole center of this has also become digitized, excuse me, and evolved. The distributor or reseller who was traditionally offline now has digital channels, e-commerce. There are pure play e-commerce retailers in the marketplace today. These are folks that have popped up to just sell online. They have no brick and mortar. And then you have marketplaces, companies like Amazon and Alibaba and others that have really dominated the B2C market for many years now in e-commerce are now coming into B2B. There's also vertical marketplaces, vertical industry marketplaces that are coming in. What this does is it shifts the power to the buyer or the end user, the consumer or B2B buyer of your product, and it allows them more choice than they've ever had, more transparency on price, more transparency on availability of product information. I like to tell the story of the car dealer here, where the car dealers in history have often, if you go back 20 years ago, they would make their money from the sale of cars, the actual product sales. Well, think about your own buying process for an automobile these days. When you walk into an auto dealer, you're armed with the price you should pay, every feature and functionality about that car, all the different places you can buy the car from. You have more choice and more transparency in that process. Well, that dealer's margin, auto dealer's margin 20 years ago has now shrunk. It was something in the 20% range. Today, it's down around 3 or 4%. The auto dealer has had to change. And now they make money from service, from warranties, from other value-added services. Those same dynamics are coming in B2B. With this transparency, it puts the power in the hand of the buyer like never before. So what does this mean? Well, to this fellow, his name is Jeff Bezos, and if I could take a virtual poll, most of you will know who he is. He's the CEO and founder of Amazon. And I think he has a quote that I think says this really well, this dynamic of customers being in charge. This is from 2010, 10 years ago. The balance of power is shifting towards buyers and away from companies. The right way to respond to this, if you are a company, is to put the vast majority of your energy, attention, and dollars into building a great product or service and putting a smaller amount into shouting about it or marketing it. So think about that for your business. What are you best in the world at? And those dynamics are coming to your business. That buyer has more power than ever. So the other big factor that's impacting the market is COVID-19. I like to say this has caused 5 years of acceleration in 3 months. The pandemic has really forced the hand of e-commerce for B2B in many, many ways. Number one, homebound and remote B2B buyers have no other way to buy products in many cases. And those that have been reticent to use e-commerce now are being forced to. In fact, 50% of customers are now buying products online they have never bought before, and almost half of businesses are experiencing online sales growth. As a sign of the times here, US retail stores saw a 60% decline in foot traffic in March. And then if you look at Amazon, their sales are up 35% year over year. They've hired almost 200,000 employees to support the demand. And this is really the new normal. These behaviors, our point of view, my point of view, is that these behaviors are going to be and are ingrained. And when you think about B2B, once you go and make the buyer's job easier, you show them that it's easier and faster to buy a product online, they're not going to revert to the traditional channels. So what's happening today is you're seeing a shift in B2B buying behavior, and those buyers becoming comfortable now that we're not before. And if you look at some of the players in B2B e-commerce who are capitalizing on this and who are digitally ready, you'll see that their numbers in many cases are up. Watsco is a great example of a distributor, for example, that is digitally ready and enabled, and they're seeing growth in their business. And they attribute a lot of it to 100% increase in their contractors. They sell to HVAC contractors, heating and ventilation and air conditioning contractors. 100% increase in their use of their mobile apps and other mobile capabilities. So my point simply is that B2B is being heavily accelerated by this COVID event. And it's a call to action. I call it the loudest call to action in our lifetime for digitization. So we've talked a lot about what's happening in the market. Of course, one of the big players in the market is Amazon and B2B. And many people don't realize what's happening with Amazon in B2B. And it's kind of an evolution of channels, really, is a way to think about it. One of the things that surprises executives when I share this information with them is that Amazon is now becoming has become the number one place for product search in the United States and increasingly abroad. Amazon is winning the war for product searches. If you look at where searches are starting, almost 70% of them are starting on Amazon, and that's up from 45% just 5 years ago. So COVID-19 is accelerating this trend as well. When you think about where you're putting digital marketing dollars, for example, many folks think about Google. Google's not irrelevant, but it's becoming certainly less relevant and has significantly lower share as it relates to product searches. And Amazon is dominating B2C e-commerce. It's responsible for almost 50% of US e-commerce. Now, B2C means business to consumer. Many of you will say, well, that doesn't really apply to me because I'm not in the consumer market. But I'll share with you in a moment why it does apply to you, and you need to be paying attention. Retail e-commerce sales by product category here on the right-hand side indicate significant penetration. In fact, Amazon has become the #1 apparel retailer in the United States as of last year. A lot of that is basic products, but they're bigger than Macy's and Walmart and Target and all the big clothing chains. They are the #1 apparel retailer. It just gives you a sign of what's happening in the market. So does this apply to B2B? Yes, in fact, it does. Amazon will be a dominant force in B2B. It already is a very significant player. This is some data from RBC Capital Markets, which demonstrates how quickly they've grown or are projected to grow. In 2019, Amazon Business completed an estimated $16 billion in revenue. That already makes them a very, very large distributor. They're projected to be, by RBC, $52 billion in gross merchandise value in just 4 years. by 2023. This is an astounding achievement if you think about how quickly they're growing this business. In fact, this just announced this year, Amazon Business has become the fastest growing part of Amazon. It eclipsed Amazon Web Services. And why? Well, they're doing a lot of things to accommodate B2B buying behavior. And it's not going to happen. It's already happened. Over 50% of B2B buyers make at least 10% of their work purchases on Amazon. This is a survey, Digital Commerce 360 survey from August of 2019, indicating that Amazon already is ingrained in buyer behavior. Think about those millennials I shared earlier and the behavior they have. Those people are becoming your B2B buyers. So this has already happened. So many people ask me, what exactly is Amazon Business? And there's reason for that. Amazon has had a couple of attempts at B2B, and Amazon Business is the one that's really been successful for them. Well, if you remember back in 2012, some of you may be familiar with something called Amazon Supply. Amazon Supply was Amazon's really first pass at B2B. It was a separate website and 500,000 products, across scientific, industrial, other business supply categories. It was Amazon took an approach that was more like, in this first version, like their consumer presence on the internet. And they didn't succeed. But one of the things that Amazon does is they try, and when they try things and test them and they don't work, they learn and they do them again. So in 2015, they launched something called Amazon Business, which they learned from their prior experience. They kept it on the same website. They're changing the experience to really be focused on business-specific behaviors. And then one of the most important things they did is they hired people from the field to build out both the buying and selling side of Amazon's assortment. So this has worked, and they've also involved their customer and understanding what the customer needs out of the experience in order to be successful. So they have teams in the field, as I mentioned, both on the buying and selling side. They're building the assortment and the buyer base. They have tools specifically for business buyers, purchase permission setting. So if I'm a business owner, I can give rights to my business administrator or a procurement person or an office manager to buy on my behalf on my Amazon account. I can buy on terms. Amazon is extending terms to business buyers, just like distributors have for decades or hundreds of years. They have spend management tools, quote requests. I can request a quote from a seller on Amazon through Amazon Business. They have pricing tools that allow sellers to set up tiered pricing and discounted pricing. They have Business Prime, which is a business B2B version of the Prime offering. They've integrated to over 80 procurement systems. They allow sellers to set up business profiles with quality and diversity credentials. The point here, guys, is that Amazon is accommodating a lot of the things that B2B buyers want. The new B2B buyer, that millennial, wants when they come and buy from an e-commerce site for their job. And Amazon is best in class at a lot of these things. And finally, they do offer enhanced content as well. So how should you think about Amazon versus owned B2B e-commerce? Well, the way our point of view is that Amazon is not a strategy in and of itself for a manufacturer, distributor brand, whatever business you're in. It's part of a strategy and part of a way to go to market with digital, right? And that's what I talk about in the book. Chapter 7 is all about Amazon and Amazon Business in the book, but there's 12 chapters. So there's a lot of other things to focus on as well. We believe that Amazon, I believe, can be an excellent first step for you to move into e-commerce because a couple of reasons. If you're not there today, it requires lower capital investment versus your own B2B e-commerce site. It also can be faster to get to market with Amazon. When you're preparing content for Amazon, it can also be used in your other digital channels, your owned channels, and even supporting your other resellers. It also builds your organizational competency around digital commerce. So ultimately, if you pick up my book and you read it, you'll find that my point of view is that you ought to have Amazon as part of your strategy, again, based on where all the search is happening, and to stay relevant to your buyer. However, it needs to be part of a broader e-commerce and digital strategy for your organization. as I just mentioned. So how do you define your Amazon strategy? What do you do as you get into this? How should you think about Amazon? Well, my point of view is that Amazon really has to be part of your strategy. And if some of you, I could get a virtual show of hands here. How many of you read this book, Good to Great? This is by Jim Collins. And I often quote this book. In fact, I have it cited in my book several times. And I love the concept he has about confronting the brutal reality of your organization. And I cite that because, if we look at, not only your organization, but the brutal reality of your marketplace. And a brutal reality is that consumer and business buyer preferences have shifted to Amazon, and you've got to be paying attention to that. So going to market without an Amazon strategy is not viable. This is a change in buyer preferences. And I believe that if your company differentiates based on product, meaning that you make a product, you're a manufacturer, you're a brand, or even if you're a distributor with private label products, this is simply a channel shift. This is a preference of your buyer on where they're searching for product and buying product. And it should be embraced. And there's nuances and all kinds of arguments that talk about Amazon and private label brands and them competing against you. Yes, those things are true, but I would challenge you to think about that in the context of your traditional channels as well. How many of your traditional distributors or retailers or other folks you sell to have their private label lines? So there's an interesting set of precedent there that you should think about and put it in context. I believe, though, that manufacturers need to be on Amazon and selling their product. If you're a distributor, you need to be on Amazon to learn. Again, think about the massive usage of this channel by your customer. Their behaviors are shaped by how they're being, the experiences they're getting on Amazon, including the post-purchase experience, the fulfillment experience. You might consider private label brands, launching them on Amazon, and even supplier exclusives. We've worked with some clients that will go to their suppliers, if they're distributors, and they'll act as their Amazon department for them, help them get onto Amazon and manage the program for them. And it's a way for both parties to win using Amazon's volume. At minimum, if you have a brand of any kind, you really need to be on Amazon, protecting that brand, registering it, and controlling any products that are on Amazon. One of my favorite and scariest activities that I do with CEOs is we'll sit down on Amazon and search their brand name and see what comes up. And oftentimes it's dozens of resellers. You don't even know who they are. There's no brand or product control at all. Sometimes they're not even relevant products, or they're products that are out of date, or you've discontinued and the product listing is terrible. This is not a good presentation on the #1 search engine in the world. There are multiple ways to tackle this. So this is the good news about Amazon and Amazon strategy, You can manage the channel and don't necessarily need to fully sell there as well. Let me talk about those. So you have 3 options on Amazon. The first, which I think is a requirement for anyone with a brand, is to control your brand. You can own your brand and build authoritative content using something called Amazon Brand Registry. This can be used by distributor private labels, manufacturers, and brand owners as a way to manage the content that's presented on the marketplace. Number 2, you can sell directly on Amazon. Utilize Amazon's e-commerce solutions to sell directly to customers. And you can use this if you're a brand, manufacturer, distributor, really any kind of business you can sell on Amazon. The third strategy is sort of a hybrid, which is control plus leveraging resellers. Now this applies to brands and manufacturers, and this would allow you to sell to customers on Amazon by enabling your distribution network on the channel. And this allows you to use Amazon Brand Registry at the same time to control the content. So that's kind of a hybrid strategy. If you are going to sell, these are some considerations. Should you sell or not? 1, why would you sell? Well, revenue, for sure. Amazon is a significant platform in terms of revenue. We have clients generating north of $20 million a year on Amazon. It's really massive brand exposure. In fact, customers on Amazon, 65% of customers will try products from a brand they've never heard of because they trust the Amazon experience. So you get brand exposure to customers and customer categories you may not be selling today. Brand control on the #1 search engine is a good reason to get in and manage this. potentially higher gross margins versus other channels. If you're a manufacturer or a brand, when you sell on Amazon directly, you're capturing the full retail margin if you use the what's called seller central selling model. And finally, it's faster. It's faster than other ways of getting to market. You can be live with an Amazon program within a couple of months versus many months or years in some cases launching your own e-commerce. Again, don't think about them separately, but as a combined strategy. Why shouldn't you sell? Well, not your customer. Amazon owns the customer. It's true. This is again why I talk about if you're differentiating based on product, think about your traditional channels. You don't own the distributor's customer. The distributor does, right? These are it's an evolution really. So not your customer, true. Pricing pressure and competition. If you do not control Amazon, the marketplace, there's significant pricing pressure which could be borne on your products, driving margin out of it. Full brand presentation control. It's still Amazon's world. It's not yours. So you don't fully control the experience. Resources you do need to invest in people to manage an Amazon program for you. And then if you sell to Amazon as a wholesaler, you do surrender more control than other methods of selling. So here's just some pluses and minuses. The other thing that I want to highlight is within the selling approach, you have two options. One is called Vendor Central. This is also known, of course, why have one name for anything? Amazon has many names for things. This is also known as 1P or first party. In this model here on the left-hand side of the screen, you sell directly to Amazon as a wholesaler. It's similar to how you'd sell to your distributor channel today or a retailer or a dealer. You ship to their fulfillment center on a PO and you're done, basically. I mean, you still have opportunity to do some things with content, with merchandising and marketing, but ultimately it's like a traditional resale channel relationship. On the right-hand side here is something called Seller Central, 3P or third party. This is where you set up your own storefront on Amazon. Amazon still processes the order, but the vendor, you ship to the end customer, or you use something called Fulfilled by Amazon. This model actually is used by a lot of our clients on the right-hand side here for a variety of reasons. One is profitability, but also it's about control. And it's control of the retail price and also control of the brand. So there's some advantages. A lot of folks who manufacture product are moving in that direction for their Amazon selling. The other approach I described is control and plus leveraging resellers. This is number 3 on my slide a couple of slides ago. And here I'm talking about really a playbook that Amazon Business has come out with. And it talks about enabling brand and product control while enabling your resellers. Consider some of your higher value distributors or resellers you work with, enabling them and authorizing them on Amazon specifically to obtain the sales. You pair this with distribution agreements and map agreements to avoid channel conflict. And on the right here is kind of a map. I won't go through all this due to time, but if you email me, I'll send you a copy of the presentation. The flow of product and how it works is mapped out here. But it's just another way, if you as a manufacturer don't want to sell yourself, but give your channels the rights to sell and still maintain a controlled environment. So if you are going to be present on Amazon, there are some elements you need to have. And it's really about building a solid foundation on Amazon. The first step is really about assortment. This is one of our clients, a company called Big Ass Fans. If you've ever been in a big airport or industrial facility, you look up and see a 30-foot wingspan fan, it's likely one of theirs. They're an industry leader in their category. So you don't always know, you don't always know what's going to sell on Amazon. Sometimes it's surprising. You don't want to just rely on your own data, but you really want to test and learn. And generally, the broader the assortment you start with, the better off you are. It gives you more of a chance to succeed on Amazon. Remember, the scale and scope of Amazon is enormous. So you have buyers of all types and all price points, by the way. This isn't just about inexpensive products. Look at this product here on this page. It's $738. This company has a very healthy Amazon program. You might consider private label or separate label products on Amazon. This is a common approach some manufacturers and even distributors have taken. You want to make sure you're looking at your gross margins carefully. Before you get into an Amazon program, you want to map out all the costs. and expectations around volumes and other things. You need to consider fees like the fulfilled by Amazon fee and Amazon listing costs and their commissions. Great content is foundational, really. It's not just about the assortment, but then it's about building great foundations around it. This is another of our clients, a company called Cardinal Health, which is a very large healthcare distributor. You need descriptive title with benefits, great images, videos, detailed descriptions and bullet points. You have to have reviews. This product has 146 reviews. You'll see it's also Amazon's choice. The other thing that's critical if you're going to get into Amazon is that you maintain what's called Prime eligibility. And if I could do another virtual show of hands, how many of you are Amazon Prime members? Well, and 99% of you would raise your hand. Well, if you think about your own buying behavior on Prime, one of the things that customers often do is they're going to sort by Prime eligibility. And that includes business customers. This isn't just about consumer behavior. People are looking for products that have the Prime badge, and it's because of that shipping guarantee. So maintaining Prime eligibility is important. And if your product is FBA certified in Amazon's warehouse, or not certified, but if you're in Amazon's warehouse using that program, your products will be Prime eligible. So Amazon also provides tools for brand management. This is really the foundation of brand control, which happens initially really outside of Amazon. So you have to think about your traditional channels. Do you have a distribution agreement in place with your channels? Are you managing the internet resale of your products if you're a distributor, or excuse me, a manufacturer? If you're a distributor, are you abiding by these policies? There's also intellectual property protection for your brand, for your products. Amazon has something called Amazon Brand Registry. I alluded to it before. It allows trademark holders to register and then control the content within the Amazon world and do things like this. This is Charlotte Pipe, and this company has set up a Amazon storefront page as well as what they call enhanced brand content, which is product content that goes onto the product listing page. And you can see here where it says Connect Tight. That's one of their product lines, and that's on Amazon. And that helps to convey the differentiation of this brand and others like it in the Amazon ecosystem. It's also important to monitor for fraud and other people you don't want selling on your products, and balancing this all between Amazon and your own site. Some of our clients, for example, will do all the things they need to do for control, put up a portion of the assortment, but also keep a portion of their product line on their own site outside of the Amazon world to sort of encourage people to discover on Amazon and then come back to their own site to find more product. So there's a variety of approaches here, but the key here is that brand management is now available to brand holders, owners on Amazon. Visibility is also critical. You know, Jeff Bezos, the founder, the fellow I showed you before, when he set out 25 years ago to start Amazon, he said, I'm going to make this the superstore, the everything store on the internet. And he was prescient. He saw what the internet could become. And he's really built that. I mean, it's almost 600 million products on Amazon. It's mind-boggling. That's in almost 1 billion products. I mean, they're trending there. And in B2B categories, they're adding tremendous assortment in MRO and office supplies and medical equipment and all these different categories, food service, all these categories are adding quite a bit of product assortment. And here's the trick though with Amazon. 70% of Amazon shoppers only buy products from the first page. So why do I say this is a search engine? Because it is, and search visibility is really important if you're going to sell your products here or even just be visible here against your competing brands and resellers. I've mapped out here on a search for iPhone chargers some of the paid search opportunities that brands have. At the top, you've sponsored brands. That's the banner across the top. You have something called sponsored products. This works something like Google where you're paying per click for visibility. You also have organic search results here, which start kind of in this example on the third row down. Organic search results you don't pay for, you have to earn your way into. And how you earn your way there, it's a lot behind that. I can't cover it. I don't have time to cover it today, but there's a lot of detail behind how you get there. It has to do with your content and seller ratings and product reviews and other things. So you do need resources to build a program like this. It's, you know, I wish I could tell you it's turn it on, set it and forget it, but it isn't. You need leadership. There needs to be a P&L for Amazon and the overall presence. And this applies, by the way, to e-commerce in general. There needs to be leadership and accountability in charge of this channel. You need people to do content planning and production for listing enhancements, brand enhancements, web merchandising. You need folks to get into merchandise your products on Amazon. There's opportunities to not only enhance the brand, but also bundle products. Amazon has events and promotions like, think about Prime Day. Probably many of you have bought on Prime Day. There's B2B specific optimizations you can do in Amazon. This is something called merchandising. You need folks to run your paid marketing campaigns in Amazon. This is a highly technical task. It involves getting in and really understanding the data, building keyword lists, understanding how your ads are being presented, when, how much you're paying for clicks, etc. It's a highly detailed function. And operational planning and support, of course, Amazon is a new channel for many companies. And so stock planning and forecasting is required, as well as servicing the channel effectively. So lots of resources. But again, this is why companies like Insiba, my company, exist to help you with those things. So key takeaways, just a couple summary steps here from what I've shared with you today. And number one, the time is now. Hopefully I've conveyed that to you through some of the statistics. If you don't digitize, you'll be left behind by your customers and frankly by competitors. 50% of B2B businesses don't have e-commerce websites still, which is a tremendous number. Many see fear or disappointment or failure in that. I see opportunity for companies like you who are still need to digitize in some cases. COVID-19 is accelerating adoption of e-commerce and Amazon amongst B2B buyers. And Amazon Business is on its way, well on its way to becoming one of the world's largest distributors over the next few years. And an Amazon Business presence, as I mentioned, is a less capital-intensive way to get into e-commerce, and it prepares you for digitization across the organization. And the good news is for organizations like you is you have multiple options to get into Amazon. You don't just have to sell your products there. You can do a variety of things to make sure you're maintaining your presence and relevance. And finally, brand control, content and advertising approaches are necessary, and resources are necessary for you to be successful on the Amazon channel. So with that, I wanted to share a little bit more about my book. It's now available on Amazon, of course, and there's also some more description about the book at billiondollarb2becommerce.com. My email is here at the bottom in the footer of each of these slides. You can email me, and I will share the copy of the presentation with you. I welcome your calls and contacts, and here's my phone number as well as my email address. So I look forward to hearing from you. Rob, hopefully we did okay on time there. And
yeah. Well, you know what, your information is so great, Brian. I appreciate your time, and I know everyone is very interested. And what we're going to do, because we are a little tight on time, I'm going to make sure and get all of you in contact with Brian. Please just keep putting in your contact questions and everything. We're going to move ahead. But Brian, thank you so much for being here at the web conference, and really appreciate your contribution.
Thank you, Rob. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. All right, let's stop recording. How do I do that? Stop. Boom. Yes.